These are some of the survivors of security branch policeman Jeffrey Benzin's exceptional interrogation style. And this is the young man who did not survive. Ashley Krill was killed by Benzin in July 1987. He was the first casualty of the 80s MK crop on the Cape Flats.
Voor hy eens gedink het in 'n political way, was sy personality daai tyd dat hy kon nie sien mense swaar kry nie.
Ashley was a working-class boy from Bonteheuwel in Cape Town, born in the era of forced removals, at the same time as Bonteheuwel became one of the first townships to house the many who were removed from the city centre. His passion for the cause of the dispossessed started early, at the fragile age of 14.
Jy sal vir hom kry in discussion. Ons was almal involved teen apartheid, maar hy het altyd dieper gedink. En toe hy nog 16 was, ja, almal het gesê apartheid moet uit, maar hy het sy eie conclusion gedra. En vir hom moet hy kon decide tussen socialism en capitalism. En hy het gedink, wat goed was vir die country, sal wees socialism. Daai is nou sy style, sy lyn. Maar as jy wil weet van sy personality, dan kan jy net so wel vra, hoe political was hy? Want hy was sy hele lewe. Dit was wat hy ook prepared was om op te offer. Hy het al lang sy mind opgemaak. Freedom or death, victory certain.
This poster used to hang on Benzin's office wall. Across the face had been written, "One down, so many to go." Underneath the slogan, "Freedom or death, victory is certain," had been written, "But not for you."
And I also want to tell you about what my mother always told myself and my sister Melanie. Whenever we had discussions about Ashley, she always said, I wish this Benzin can come to me one day and tell me about how my son died.
During the inquest that cleared Benzin and his colleague Anthony Abels of any liability, they claimed the shooting had been an accident. Asking for amnesty for the death, Benzin repeated that version this week.
I don't know whether I pulled the trigger.
My hele doel was om hom te arresteer.
My purpose was to arrest him and not to kill him. Although
sy dood 'n tragedie is vir die familie.
His death was a tragedy for the family.
Baie jammer.
I am very, very sorry that he had to die.
But if Benzin never bothered to apologize to Auntie Ivy about her son's death then, he this week was forced to come face to face with his survivors.
No, they used to cross their legs.
Mr. Yangeni, can you see Mr. Yangeni?
What kind of man that uses a method like this one of the wet bag to people, to other human beings, repeatedly, and listening to those moans and cries and groans, and taking each of those people very near to their deaths. What kind of man are you? What kind of man is that?
Do you remember saying to me that that you are able to treat me like an animal or like a human being, and that how you treated me depended on whether I cooperated or not?
I can't remember it correctly, sir, but I would concede I may have said it.
Can I then also just ask if you remember that while I was laying on the ground that somebody inserted a metal rod into my anus and electric or shocked me?
No, sir.
Although the first time this type of assault took place was the day of my arrest, but that after that, whenever it came to the 16th, that it would either be the threat or actual assault.
I deny, and Mr. Forbes, if I'm denying this, then one of us two are lying. On the Saturday, I assaulted you. I then assaulted you on, I think it was the Monday evening. That was after that we went for the steak. Am I correct? After that, I took you on investigation to the Eastern Cape. Whereas, to refresh your memory, and I'm not saying it flippantly, as you said, it was the most Kentucky Fried Chicken you've ever eaten. Either after that or prior to that, we attempted to go to the Western Transvaal, where you were going to do some pointing out. Could you remember the time that you'd seen snow for the first time? Can you remember what happened in the snow? The husband and wife and the two children who were taking photos of you playing in the snow along the N1.
After 3 months in your hands, and just prior to the 16th, I had tried to commit suicide. Could you perhaps, from your perspective, try and explain or try to help the Commission to understand why I would have come to that point to have tried to commit suicide?
What actually led to that, I cannot say, except that I concede the method of detention was a draconian law instituted by the then nationalist government, sir. If I said to Mr. Jacobs, I put the electrodes in his nose, I may be wrong. If I said I attached it to his genitals, I may be wrong. If I put a probe into his rectum, I may be wrong. That is why the specific methods, I could have used any one of those three.
Can I possibly...
Did you, during your service, use all three methods?
In the case of Mr. Jacobs, yes, sir.
I was your first, the first survivor of this torture method of you. You would concede that, you say?
Yes.
Yeah, you concede as well. There were other people busy with that, which means it was an official method that was authorized and approved that you were using.
Not writtenly authorized, but condoned. You weren't arrested by the team in my car.
You personally arrested me, yourself and Pete Goosen. You remember?
It's difficult to remember, sir.
You put me in a combi yourself, Goosen and Liebenberg, and drove me to Pulenberg.
I'm not sure, but I'm willing to concede your memory will be better than mine on that aspect.
But it's not true that you and Peterson assaulted me throughout the trip.
As I say, I cannot remember the arrest, but if you say we assaulted you in the combi, then I would concede that in all probability I did. I don't know how though.
Our position, firstly, on the issue of whether we will support AMSA or not is still the same. From the time I spoke to you 2 years ago to now, it's not changed. We are saying, and I've said to you on more than one occasion, that we are very willing to grant amnesty or support your AMSA application on the basis that you reveal the truth. You said yesterday that you've been used by the security branch, and I accept that. But the difficulty I have, you seem to remember very flimsy things like Kentucky and things which I would have thought you forgot, but more things which stand out more permanently in terms of our interrogation and our experience. You don't seem to remember. And I want to know, are you not being used again yet to be the fall guy for the rest of the security branch?
No, sir. What I am disappointed in is that there are fewer members of the security branch, maybe people in a more senior position that could spread more light on this as far as the hierarchy and the incidents that were happening at that time. I approached the Truth and Reconciliation because it is something that I've got to sort out with myself. Everybody's had the occasion to do it, and what I find hurtful, that in the absence of more people of the security branch who could possibly help this commission, that I've been left out on a limb.
3 harrowing days for all the participants to sift through the many layers of memory and truth and lies of the past, so that now and tomorrow can be fundamentally different. We returned to the island where these cadres had been imprisoned to continue the search.
When initially I felt a bit sorry for him on the first day when I saw him, because I just thought that he had a lot on his shoulders and a lot of yeah, he went through a lot himself and he had a lot of things to speak about, and he seemed such a lonely figure because there wasn't anybody with him. He didn't have any other security branch people, his family wasn't there, and yeah, he was basically representing the entire security police almost, for that matter. But I think also as time progressed, it was just a bit difficult because for numerous reasons he couldn't remember what had happened. And for us that was important to just, for him to be able to say, you know, these are the kinds of things that we did to people, even if he doesn't remember the detail, but he could have explained, you know, the kind of process that you went through. And it's a whole systematic process where you're physically, psychologically tortured for a long period. And I went to the point where after 3 months, yeah, I tried to commit suicide. And then it goes through, you know, a process of breaking your eardrum and getting your blue eye in your nose and breaking your lips and eventually knocked me out, kind of thing. And then he takes you for a drive and he's all dressed in nicely and so forth. And he says, come, let's go. Go for something to eat, and he takes me to a shop or some place and we go have something, you know, he says Kentucky or steak or something, and then he says, no, you've done well and everything was okay, and then maybe at 2, I don't know what time in the morning, he'll take you back to the cell again. Then the next day at about 5, 6, he'll come again, and what I try to do is try to block out and not think about it. I've never gone for counseling and that kind of thing, you know. And I suppose that's a similar thing that he may want to do, you know. I don't think he wants to think about what he did to people. And he, as a form of defense mechanism, may have even tried to block out a lot of those incidents.
We don't want him to be punished, but we want to know. We don't want, and I'm sure what we've achieved in terms of the wetback treatment, it's going to be very difficult for any policeman to go to court and say he didn't do it now. I think they'll do away with the method in the police, and that's the type of thing we want to see done in New South Africa, that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. And I think that's one of our objectives of this thing, to get out what has been done, the systems they use, so that our children don't suffer from the same things in the future.
This morning I spoke again to Benzine, and I said to him that there were lots of things that he did to Ashley that we didn't speak to him about, and all we wanted from him, that we'd support his amnesty, and that we'd give it to him on a platter, and that all we expected was for him to tell the truth. And I think he was sincere when he said to me that he honestly can't remember those things. And I think that for us, this is just there's a reconciliation, but we actually going now through a healing process. For some of the things we just out of our own choice preferred not to have spoken about, and now the truth is coming out, and even we have to deal with the truth.